idea through this campaign of putting them both together is, number one, to raise enough money for both organizations to make it through an entire year without having to sweat.
Mrs. Kreitman is with us live via telephone. Mrs. Chaya Kreitman is a Hatzalah dispatcher. Could you imagine that? She's a Hatzalah dispatcher and has the incredible responsibility of getting those volunteers to the respective places so that they can save lives. Mrs. Chaya Kreitman, welcome to JM in the AM.
Hi, good morning.
Pleasure to speak with you. For someone like myself, if I was on the other end of that call, I imagine I'd be in a somewhat of an anxious and panic situation. I would bet as a dispatcher, you have to behave in exactly the opposite manner and try to stay as calm and cool as possible.
Yes, it is definitely an act.
It's definitely an act. So there is some anxiety, huh? There is some, every time that call comes in, a little bit of anxiousness in terms of dealing with the situation and getting things done as fast as possible.
Well, it depends on the call. Sometimes, like if you're confident and you know what you're supposed to be doing and you don't really think too much about what's going on the other end, it's just smooth sailing. But some days, I just think too much about what's going on the other end, and it's like, okay, Chaya, get a grip.
Yeah, I
Take
can
a deep
imagine.
breath. You got a job to do.
How long are you doing this job?
I started the summer before my youngest was born, so I would say I'm probably doing it about 9 years.
And it must be a very satisfying experience, I can imagine, and you've seen a lot of volunteers over those years. What could you tell us about the staff, those who you speak to in emergency situations, who are running to get to those homes and save adults and children and babies? And what could you tell us about the people you're interacting with on a regular basis on the other end of the dispatch call?
Well, they are amazing, unbelievably dedicated people. For the most part, at that point, I'm on automatic pilot, and I'm not really thinking too much.
Right.
But for the most part, they're very nice people. They're dedicated people. They're respectful people. They're motivated to go out there and help and do the job and get it done.
They're a real shining example of what it's like to serve the community and to serve the community as a volunteer, and it's really remarkable. Speaking with Mrs. Chaya Kreitman, who's a dispatcher for Hatzalah, I would assume as a dispatcher, do you have a specific shift, or you could be anywhere day or night?
So we do have specific shifts, but occasionally if one dispatcher is not available, like we'll fill in for each other, and I may find myself with a shift that I'm not normally stuck with. My husband's an overnight dispatcher, so like dispatch is really part of our family. It has a seat at our Shabbos table. It comes to bed with us, and it's a presence in our lives.
Gosh, I can only imagine. And it's a presence that really makes an impact, to say the least, because of the great service that's being provided. A lot of times, I shouldn't say that a lot of times, but there are times when a dispatcher's role in all of this is overlooked. We talk about the volunteers, rightfully so, and those who are racing, and those who are saving, and those who are, starting the medical assistance, and that has to be recognized. But you dispatchers sometimes might get overlooked. People don't realize the calming effect you can have on the other end of the phone, and how important your role is in the entire organization. So we say a big thank you to you and all the dispatchers, and I would hope that you would join me right now, Mrs. Chaya Kreitman, in convincing everybody out there why it's important to join today's campaign and to support Hatzalah.
It is definitely a very, very worthy cause. When you're the one needing Hatzalah, you want them to be there for you. And you don't want them to say, oh, well, I'm sorry, we have no equipment available for lack of funding. That's the last thing people would want to hear. Yeah. When you need Hatzalah, you want them, and you want them to be able to provide the care that you need at that precise moment.
Well said, and I hope people will heed your advice and your call and will, in fact, participate today. Mrs. Chaya Kreitman, continued success with Hatzalah, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.